It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome, episode 6 of The Shield Within. I'm your host, Marc the Cop. My esteemed colleague, Dr. David Buchanan, who's not a real doctor, but we're going to call him that because we like to be witty. We're here with you this evening. It's been a little bit since we did our last recording, which has been a month.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, because we rammed episodes 1 through 5 out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But we're back,
Yes.
and we're so happy you're here with us. Let's do some work here before we get going. Let's pay the bills.
Okay.
If you're in need and you need a good life coach, which is the gentleman here that shares the microphone with me, go to lessonslearnedcoaching.com. Lessons Learned Coaching for when life gets in the way. Also, come check us out on social media, please. I try to update this Facebook page daily at Facebook.com/The Shield Within. Or, that's not enough for you, you can go to www.theshieldwithin.com. And reach us there. And also, if you go to our website, you can hit the coaching button. That'll take you directly to Dr. David. If you see something on Facebook that you like, please share. Like and share. We like to have as much interaction as we can. We're always trying to give you something inspirational every day. Our motto here on The Shield Within is we try to heal through humor. So I'm a bit of the clown. Dr. David is obviously the smart one amongst us. I was smart enough to go see him 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah. And he helped pull me out of my hole. And every day is a learning day. Mm-hmm. So always remember that. And when you're walking down the path of recovery, hey, boys and girls, it's not a one and done.
That's right.
You know,
Good
I've
point.
been in therapy now since 2008. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on it, and we still ain't done. So to share a little bit with you, of course, I was accused of oversharing with a few things, but I always promised to you, our listeners, that I would be real. Mm-hmm. If I sound like I'm drunk, I'm not. I did an EMDR therapy session today.
Awesome.
Jerry Kanapke and I just did 2 hours set up, and we did some work. So it's not as bad. I'm not as exhausted as what I was when I did it with you, but I do notice today is May 4th.
Yes, it is.
May the 4th be with you. I do notice a disturbance in the force today, so I don't know. My it's like the bottom of the fish tank when you go to clean the rocks and the shit's all everywhere.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel right now. So if the audience doesn't mind, I'm going to let Dr. David drive the bus today and take us through. I have coffee and I have Blanton's and a drink, so I think the coffee's going to offset the Blanton's. So, like on my other show, which David was a part of, in episode 98, the It List podcast. So we don't drink on The Shield Within as much, but I think we're going to start.
Tonight's the night.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we have covered a lot of different aspects of therapy in general, trauma therapy in particular, Marc's story in particular, and I thought there was kind of like one area of impact that trauma has on an individual that maybe we could cover before we go into the expanded format where we're having guests on.
Absolutely.
So I thought a lot about not much in terms of you specifically, but more generically, like all the folks I had dealt with, in terms of like EMTs, ER nurses in particular, I guess kind of made me trigger this. Trauma has a lot of emotional impacts, as we've discussed, a lot of social impacts, like we've discussed. It does a lot to the way you look at your job and pretty much every part of your life. And then there's another part of trauma that is maybe kind of like almost too obvious to pay much attention to, and that's what it does to your body and the physiological effects.
Physiological effects can be, I want to say, devastating.
Absolutely. Good word.
Yeah, absolutely can be. Yeah, good point.
There's a lot of research on what exactly chronic trauma in particular does, which I found really interesting. The first thing that comes to mind is that gets disrupted the most quickly and for persistently is sleep. And when your sleep is disrupted,
oh my gosh,
man,
yes. Keep going. Sorry.
As we talked more than once, and Mark and I, and one of the many things we have in common is that we have a struggle with sleep. Mine's been over the course of my whole life, and I know much about insomnia and how incredibly hard and devastating is a good word that can have on the rest of you. You have lowered energy, your creativity's down, your problem-solving skills are down. You're just fatigued all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And
when you're tired, you talked about problem solving, and when you're tired, you just can't work through it because, a lot of times, like, the solution, or, oh, God, I know this, or, hey, buddy, I should know your name, but it's not coming to light. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's the first thing that happens is with sleep. And for those of you who are first responders and or family members of first responders, you're going to see that as a probable first impact. You may be tired over the whole day. Having the trauma is incredibly tiring, but you can't fall asleep. Or
you're so fucking tired you can barely make it home. You get your head on the pillow. Bing. Wide fucking awake.
Exactly. If you're somewhat lucky enough to go to sleep, then you have nightmares. Yeah. And nightmares can make a lot of things very, very disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
In your waking state during the day. And if you're sleeping with somebody who's having a nightmare, that is itself an experience to go through.
Oh, yeah.
So sleep is the area that I thought was the most initially impactful, and then that leads to fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
And exhaustion. And then, oddly enough, I had this reported by a couple different people. Parts of your body, parts of your mind can just kind of go numb.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Numbing in the legs, numbing in the hands. Yeah, that's everything that I've experienced. Matter of fact, my lack of sleep got so bad that I thought I had a stroke.
Wow.
I was that exhausted. Yes.
Wow.
Of course, I was legit burning the candle at both ends. That was back in 2015. I remember sitting there in roll call. I thought I was talking. In my mind, I was talking, but my crew was hearing blah, 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 and they're looking at me and they're laughing. They're like, what the fuck, dude? Sarge, all right? I'm like, I just sat there for a minute and stopped talking. And they're laughing because they thought I was clowning around because they never know when I'm serious. But then I realized, yeah, that wasn't intentional. And then they realized real quick. They saw my face, and I'm like, oh, fuck, something's wrong.
Yes.
Something's horribly wrong.
Yes.
And went to the doctor after that. Of course, the physical doctor.
Yeah.
And of course, then you go through this whole fucking litany of tests. They look at you and they give you a list, and you got 1 through 50 on it. Tell me every word starting with T, and you got 60 seconds. Go.
Whoa.
Yeah, right now. Give me every word that starts with T. First thing in my mind, tits, testicle. And then that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this woman's going to think I'm a total fucking perv. But, and I got like 10. And I'm like, that's all I got. And I felt like a fucking idiot because I wasn't a fourth done.
Yes.
So, anyway, enough about me.
No, that's your living illustration.
Yeah, yeah.
So sleep's first, and when I say the mind, it's like parts of people's awareness will just be like gone for a while.
Right.
And like could be awareness of your child. I mean, I've literally had a gentleman come in who was in law enforcement a long time ago, and he came in, he had 3 kids. He could only talk about 2.
What, did you forget about the third?
He forgot about the third.
Are you serious?
His awareness of that third child was so minimal. It was like when I would mention him in session, it was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
What
about Mikey?
Yeah, exactly. I forgot about Mikey. And it hurt him deeply to realize he had just like lost awareness of his kid.
I have to admit that early in my career, I mean, poor Miss Carol, Your head's down, you're plowing, you're working, Susan was working, I was working, and I don't want to necessarily say we forgot her, but I don't think there's any better way to say it. She was just part of the mix. I mean, we didn't, and I feel bad today because I always wanted to make the kids, give them each something special.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? But hell, she just got lost in the mix, and I feel horrible for that now.
And it's a thing. It's a deficit, but it's a kind of deficit that you can fill in later.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think that's important with a lot of stuff, like including sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Difficulties with sleep do not equal you can never sleep. There's ways to do that. And in fact, one of my law enforcement people and I have been talking about this recently in coaching, that you think about going to sleep about 2.5 hours before you want your head to hit the pillow.
Right. And get away from the caffeine.
Yes.
Stay the fuck away from caffeine.
Know the things you can't eat, drink, consume. And in terms of activity, some people can work out right before they go to bed. Other people, it's exactly wrong.
I just don't work out.
Solves that problem.
Right.
Prevention, man.
No, I do. I'm kidding. I need to go. I haven't been to the gym in a little bit. But yeah, workout, caffeine consumption, smoking cigarettes. Big thing is right now is, did you see where the state of New Jersey has allowed, or city of New Jersey, is allowing their officers to smoke marijuana off duty?
Ah.
I was like, what the fuck? What are we becoming?
Things do change over time, don't they? As the trauma persists, and even if it's just a single incident, after a while, this is a big deal to me. There's this part of the body that is basically, it functions as a response to crisis. And it's the HPA is what it's called, which is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal. It's a system in the endocrine system where the hormones live and stuff.
Right.
After a while, and it doesn't take very long, like several days, that part of the body will start pumping cortisol into your bloodstream in pretty jacked up amounts.
Is that why most cops have thyroid conditions?
Bigger than that is high blood pressure and heart disease. Prolonged cortisol in your blood becomes toxic.
Okay.
And what it hurts the most is your heart.
Right.
And then,
but that's why we all die of heart attacks.
Yes.
That's why, and sadly, God rest his soul, I just lost a friend. Poor guy. 33 years on the job. Year and a half later, God called him home. Went to his funeral last week. Heartbreaking.
Yeah, exactly.
You work all that time, save all that money, you got all these plans, and then, because your body gives up on you. Yes. It doesn't give up on you. You basically abuse it.
That's right.
In this industry. So that's why I tell everybody, fucking live, man. If you're saving that money for that vacation, go take the fucking vacation, boys and girls.
Today.
And learn how to relax. I never forget this in 2018. Forgive me, Jen, if I got it wrong. I'm thinking it's 2018. I feel bad. It's my daughter's wedding. But we flew out to Oregon day one. I mean, I got off work, got on the plane, and we flew to Oregon. And Jen bought us a spa treatment, which was this lovely spa up in wine country. Absolutely. You got massages and, just had the whole spa treatment. And here I am. I'm amped the fuck up. And, the whole, and the girl that's giving me my massage, of course, Susan's over there. She's asleep. Her masseuse put her to sleep. And this girl's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." She said, "You're awful tense." I said, "I know. Let me tell you, I'm a police officer. I'm a police supervisor. And 12 hours ago, I was still at work. I flew here. I got off the plane. I went to my daughter's house, and now I'm here." And she's like, "Wow, you need to relax." And I said, "I know." She's like, "Let me help you." So, she was able to get me down.
Yeah.
But wasn't able to get me in the basement.
Right.
And that's where we were talking the other day about going on vacation and being so busy, like, oh, we're going to go to Disney World, we're going to go to Universal, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. No. When I go on vacation, I'm going to get a cabana, a beach chair, and a book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my ass out of the hotel. I'm going to walk out to the beach, and I'm going to sit there. I'm going to drink, and I'm going to read my book, and I'm going to look at the ocean. I'm going to do that for 5 days. I'm not going to do anything else. Don't fucking bother me. The phone goes on, do not disturb. I finally figured that out, by the way. God love iPhones. They change everything. They're like fucking Microsoft. Oh, here, let's upgrade, and we're going to totally fuck everything. So you got to relearn our software. So I finally found do not disturb. And I tell you what, I've been finding myself putting my phone on do not disturb at 7:00 every night.
Wow.
I don't want bothered. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Last night I went to bed. Guess what time I went to bed? It was still light out.
8 o'clock.
8:30. I was in bed.
8:30,
yep.
bro.
I sat there, and have you watched the soft white underbelly?
I can't watch it. I can't watch it. It feels
You've
like
tried it.
It feels like I've seen this movie before.
You've spent your lifetime doing this work, right?
That's right.
You can't watch it. I can't stop watching it. It's just like, good God. They had this dude on there, the body transformist.
Yes.
And he converted and changed himself into a dragon.
Okay.
And I don't know, he was homosexual, then he was bisexual, and his whole sexuality, he's like, I'm just going to become a eunuch. It's going to have everything cut off. And I just like, okay, this guy is bizarre. And I thought, wow. but I can't stop watching it. So it must be good if you can't watch it, because you're like, I can't watch this shit. It's too bizarre.
I've seen every movie in that they offered. What I would be more interested in, honestly, is a documentary about the man who decided to do the interviews.
Marc Lotta.
That
Marc
interview,
Lotta, yeah.
That interview I would watch.
Yeah.
What was in your head? How did this get started?
Yes. It's on YouTube.
Oh.
I just watched it. He's being interviewed by a guy on a podcast, and he said, how did this become about?
Exactly.
He's a photographer. He just kind of fell into this. He was just traveling around the country taking pictures of people, because that's why all the photos on the soft white underbelly are black and white.
Right.
And it's kind of like Paul Butler. He didn't go looking for this career. And Paul Butler, shout out, great police professional and lecturer. The career found him. Mm-hmm. He didn't go looking for the career. He just kind of fell into this.
Right.
And then through his YouTube channel, everybody's like, Jesus Christ, these people are bizarre, but these people are out there, and you got to embrace them.
They're real.
Yes. They are real.
Yes.
And I think it really wraps right back into what we're talking about, that us in public safety, these are the freak shows. I hate to say that. These are the freak shows we deal with regularly.
That's right.
And that's why I always tell my people, treat these people with dignity and respect.
Yes.
Who gives a fuck that this guy has shaved off his genitals and he's tattooed himself to look like a snake and pulled all of his teeth out? That's his choice.
Yeah.
But while you're here and while you're there, your job isn't to pass judgment on him, because those ain't my values.
That's right.
I don't live in this fucking filthy sewer.
Right.
You do.
Right.
But while I'm here to help you.
Yes.
And to treat that person, again, with dignity and respect. And that's what Marc Lotta, I hope I'm not butchering his name, but Laita.
Okay.
Laita?
I'm not sure.
But that's what he does. And then he went down to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an extremely inbred family, double first cousins. And they're making kids together. And these poor bastards are just, they're nonverbal.
Yeah.
And, but that's their life.
For whom, I mean, to me, it's a challenge of compassion.
Oh, that's a great word, Truck. A challenge of compassion. Yes.
You can't wrap your arms around your head around what the hell that person's gone through that got them to the point where they do fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And I know you, bro. You know what compassion is.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things you either have or you haven't.
Right.
And it's one of the things that your work can take away from a person who doesn't guard it with as much passion as they have for their work, is to be compassionate for everybody they come into contact with.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it's like one of those things that folks would tell me stories about what they did on the job with whatever, fire, EMT. And it was like, man, the people that walked into this that had compassion at one time. I mean, their spouses tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
20 years ago,
Absolutely.
he was awesome. He was gentle. He was loving. He was attentive. He was funny. And now I can't find the man.
I don't know who he is anymore.
Exactly.
But see, to wrap that back around, I look in the mirror and I'm like, I don't know who that guy is anymore.
Yeah.
And that's, and that's where, with what I've been through, and that's what I worked on today in my session was, sorry.
Take your time, bro. Take your time. Yeah.
Was finding that. I didn't expect that.
Dude, that's okay. You're walking in a tender place.
Oh, yeah. That's, like I said, it's stirred up. But finding that balance to where, it really, it angers me, and it takes me back, like every conversation I steered into that abyss or that cesspool. And I recognized it, and I'm like, I got to fix this shit. And I called Jerry when I was in Florida, and I was sitting out there on Dad's porch, and I said, I need to come in. And he says, you're all right? And I said, no, not. We need to get some work done. Of course, I fucked the appointment up. I thought it was 3:30. It was 3 o'clock, and he texted me. He's like, hey, dude, where you at? And I said, I'm pulling in the driveway. I thought it was 3:30, but, God love him. He... because of my fuck up, he rearranged his afternoon just 30 minutes. But, as well as I do, if you're 30 minutes behind, now you're an hour behind because, and I'm like, man, I'm super sorry about this for fucking this up. And I said, next week, let's do 2 hours and let's do some process work.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, it's about fucking time. It's kind of the way you were.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready for it. You got to prepare yourself for it. And,
right. Exactly.
I'm just super right now. I'm just like a pincushion. I mean, I'm super. I don't know. I'm not triggered. I'm just super sensitive.
Right. Exactly. Everything goes in, and everything kind of hurts.
Oh yeah.
Now, with all of that, which all fits to me perfectly together, a few other things that happen to the body. With law enforcement, EMT, firemen, whatever, ER nurses, policemen, all 4 groups, you're going to have more, like Marc has mentioned before on many occasions, you're going to have many, many incidents of trauma, hundreds of them. So the need, as you said at the beginning, Marc, for keeping a therapist is almost as important as starting and finding a therapist.
Absolutely.
Because the shit ain't going to stop.
No.
The shit's just going to keep falling from the sky.
Well, I think it's pertinent at this point to bring up, with most humans, you have 2 traumatic events in a lifetime.
Right.
First responders have 800 or more.
Right.
We'll just let that sink in.
Yeah.
800 or more. And if you're dealing with incident 1 and 2, and you got 800 to get through, and you're still working. So now tomorrow is 801, 803, 807, whatever.
Yeah.
You literally, it's virtually impossible to get ahead of the curve.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why, it's good to get in and start recognizing it early.
Yeah.
And I just got off a week. Let's see, I started Tuesday, ended Sunday. I taught at the State Academy, and I taught at the local community college. And I was telling my advanced class that, because it was a train-to-trainer class, I said, you have to realize that the simple act of turning on lights and siren puts stress on you. Just that simple act of going, from position 0 to position 3. On your light bar controller, or flipping the on switches, or if you got rocker switch, however you turn your woo-woos and your blinkies on.
Yeah.
Just that simple act instantly stresses your body. And, there's ways to train driver's training where you can recognize it. But everyone's like, I do that all the time. Yeah, you do. And you get numb to it. It's like living next to an airport.
Yes.
When you first move in, you hear every fucking jet come over.
Yeah.
That's why I like where I live. I live in the flight path by choice of Dayton International Airport. I love the planes. I love sitting out back and whatever. Or it's like living next to a train track. Some people's like, meh, I heard it for the first 6 months, but then I just tune it out. And stress, it's the same way.
Yes.
Until you get your bucket full.
Yes.
Then you don't notice it.
That's right. That's right. And you don't notice by that point what's happened to everything, including your body.
Oh, yeah.
And your wife is wondering, your husband is wondering, why the hell's all of a sudden she's not eating? All of a sudden she's not sleeping. Or
the exact
puts
opposite.
It on.
Yeah.
Either way, the appetite gets disrupted, sleep gets disrupted. And the partner's like, what the hell's going on? You don't really tell the partner all that stuff.
Right.
The other things that kick in as really chronic things as the trauma goes on is fibromyalgia and chronic pain. Everything starts to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a constant. It's never a 0. It's either a 2 or a 5 or an 8. It's somewhere in there. It's constant. And as that trauma gets resolved down the road, then an awful lot of those symptoms go away because the cortisol is not being pumped into your body all the time, and you relax on a very fundamental level.
But that's if you get the trauma resolved.
Exactly.
But if you're constantly in a state of influx,
yes,
how do you resolve it?
Yeah. This is where it becomes really important to find somebody almost before. It's almost like I would want, as a beginning policeman, I would probably consider finding a therapist before I was actually on the job.
Wow, you really struck something there. Keep going.
You find somebody who's going to be a potential resource in case, and everybody that's had a brain in their head who's trained you has said, you're going to get a lot of shit here.
Okay.
And it's good to have someone already in your pocket.
How do we bridge that gap, though, David? How do we reach that young officer and say, yeah, you probably ought to reach out to whatever associates down here and just create that rapport? Maybe just do like a monthly check-in.
Yes.
You may be feeling great. Yeah. Is there a way where your department has a guy that comes in? I was talking with Jerry today, and Jerry was telling me about when he was in education, and when he switched from education and got into therapy, that they had kind of like a group session going, and I was telling him in the early part of my session today just about how many women are abused. Through the conversations you and I had, I was just like, oh my God,
yeah,
so many.
Yes,
and I pray my daughters have never been through anything like that, but they would never tell me if they did because they know I could kill the motherfucker.
Right.
But find that person, have that resource ready.
Right.
And that's the whole purpose of the Shield Within was that.
Yes.
I'm in the shitty apartment. We laughed and joke about it on the E-List podcast. That I'm in my camping chair. I got a fucking box here for an end table.
Right.
I got my TV and my Game Boy, but that's all I got in the fucking room. It's like, how did I end up in this crappy apartment? A year ago I was in my beautiful home with my family. What the fuck went wrong? How did I get here? And that's, to me, that's the basis of what the show is about. Is let's get you back home, bro.
Exactly.
One way or the other. Let's get you back home. Let's get you healthy.
Yes.
Let's get you happy again.
Right.
Because you didn't ask for this. You absolutely didn't ask for this. You didn't plan on it.
No.
I can tell you in my life and in my career, I had no clue.
Right.
I wished two old fuckers like me and you, David, had this ability to share this information.
Yeah.
What I got was bad information. Boy, don't you go home and tell your wife about this because she won't understand it. Well, that was the worst advice ever.
Right. Exactly.
The best thing to have done was go home and said, I'm having a bad day, babe. This is some fucked up shit I dealt with today. Help me through this.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that.
But again, for example, just a very small example, perhaps local enough, but there's these examples all over the country as we're finding. Troy, Ohio has a police chief that has just made mental health a huge priority.
Sean McKinney.
Yeah.
What a great man. I respect and admire Chief McKinney. He's a great guy. And Chief McKinney was our bugle player on the honor guard when he was Officer McKinney.
Wow.
Yeah, what a great guy.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Chief McKinney.
Awesome.
But go ahead, sir.
And I'm thinking he's the guy to tell the new recruits that are in, here's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to meet this guy named, and even though nothing's happened yet,
Right.
You're going to want that person in your back pocket when something does happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's possible. I think it's something you can do for yourself if you're you're in your first month of being a fireman. Go get somebody. Talk to people. Call the Shield Within. Contact us here. Whatever.
Yeah.
We'll find somebody for you pretty much wherever you are because there's just enough. There are plenty of resources.
LessonsLearnedCoaching.com.
Lessons Learned Coaching. Absolutely
Talk right
can work.
to the man right here, man.
That can work. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to kind of focus on was the effect of trauma on memory.
Oh, my God, dude. Roll.
Yeah. EMDR training, we didn't spend a tremendous number of minutes on this, but the trainers were so emphatic about it that it stuck in my head like a brainworm or something. Like, man, when you're doing, a victim comes to you, a woman's been raped. She walks into her office, she's all stressed out, she's just whatever. But you know in the conversation that the woman is going to be testifying in court or giving a deposition where her memory is going to be called into question and challenged, and she's going to have to pretty much be convincing to herself and to the other people in the room, this is what happened to me.
Okay.
If you do EMDR before the testimony, the memory will be refiled by the brain. That's the entire point of EMDR.
Okay.
So those events that ended up with the person being victimized are then harder to recall, much less precise. They cause much less physical distress. Like you're sitting on the stand and you're testifying and somebody's challenging you, like, well, I don't know for sure. It might have been that day. It might have looked like that. All of a sudden the jury or the judge are like,
Yeah, now you're less convincing. Okay, so let's push pause right there. So I'm going to be devil's advocate.
Good.
So what are you saying is that don't do EMDR?
Do EMDR in sequence.
Okay.
You come into, you get like with the new.
Okay, so I'm Sally whatever.
Yeah.
I come into your office. I've been raped. There's an investigation going on.
Yes.
I need relief. I need healing. What do I do? Okay.
You go find a therapist and you say, I'm going to have to testify. The therapist will then say to you, okay, we're going to keep yourself in one piece between now and that date.
Okay.
And on the other side of that, I am trained in this technique to resolve trauma, and we will take care of that memory and all the things that even went on the stand. Because a lot of times, if you're a police officer and you're testifying about something that happened that you watched, and you may have the video camera on, but you may not. Who knows? But your verbal retelling of the story is going to be tremendously affected by doing EMDR before you testify.
Okay.
So as a policeman, you go into you find the therapist, you do all that stuff, which is hard enough, but you find somebody to work with, and then you go in and say, I need you to keep me in one piece until I testify. And then after I testify, I'm going to come in here and we're going to work our asses off, and you're going to help me resolve this shit.
Good stuff.
And it leads to kind of like this general understanding. Like, I had this wonderful woman who had been raped in college.
Oh, my God.
And she had been sexually abused as a child, never told anybody.
Oh, wow.
She gets to college and she's raped. And she was very angry about it.
Oh, yeah.
And went to the campus police and told the story. And the campus police did their job. They listened to her. They took her seriously. But when it came time to testify, her memory was filled with so much emotion.
She couldn't stay on track.
It just couldn't keep her on track. Some of the stuff that came out of it was totally precise, followed by a sentence that was
Total gibberish.
I don't know. So it adds up to a giant question mark. So to resolve the trauma is one thing. To have a precise memory of how everything happened, in what sequence, no.
Okay.
No.
So we want to do the setup for EMDR.
Yes, you want to get the wellness part done.
Okay, so the setup includes safe space and
yes,
or safe place and,
yes,
and everything else.
Yes.
So then you go testify, and the moment you get done testifying,
boom,
let's get back in here and get this shit
exactly,
healed.
Exactly, yeah.
So what happened to me over the weekend, I want to talk about this, and
cool.
This is part of the reason why I went to my EMDR session today.
Yeah.
Was that I went to church Saturday night because I couldn't go Sunday morning with my aunt, and because she was moving and I was teaching, so I'm like, I'm just going to teach, and then right after class, because we did practicals, I'm going to go to St. Chris to Saturday night mass, and I need to go to confession, and I wasn't able to get there in time, but I got there in time for mass. So I'm going through. It comes time to take communion, and I'm walking up front. And I smell it. White Diamonds perfume. Next thing I know, I'm standing in Louis'.
Take your time. Take your time.
I'm standing in Louis' living room. And it was bam. And I remember taking communion, sidestepping, genuflecting, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So I left. I just walked straight up the aisle and left. And I went out in the car, and I just had to gather myself for a minute. Woo!
And you cried.
Oh, yeah.
You cried hard.
Oh.
You cried from way down inside.
Yeah, and once I finally got myself pulled together, I'm like, all right, I shook it off, and I'm like, I got to go to the grocery.
Good.
No. There's another old bitch in there wearing white diamonds. It was a fucking double whammy, bro. I got like half the shit I needed, and I'm back in Louis' living room again. And I don't remember checking out. I don't remember going to the car. I don't remember loading the groceries. I remember driving. Next thing I know, I'm aware I'm on 25A turning on my road. And I'm like, I'm fucked.
Yes.
I had plans Saturday night. I meant to go out with friends, and Joel was playing here in the city, and there's a party planned, and I told my friends I was going to be there, and it just fucking wiped me out.
Yes. Exactly.
And I'm like, God damn, I've been through this. We did EMDR with Louis.
Right.
Why am I still here?
Right. That's a beautiful illustration of the layers upon layer upon layer of trauma. At the point where you, honestly, this happens so often with so many people that have had so many different kinds of trauma. I had a fire victim who went through this. It was like smells hit her, and then all of a sudden she discovered that there were other things like seeing peeling paint.
Oh my God, yeah.
Would freak her, and she didn't know that for years later.
Right.
So there's layers to it. There's flavors of it. And so the
But I guess my question to you is, as my former therapist, why today? Why today is it that, why am I having that nightmare? Why am I awake? Why did it totally disabled me for the weekend? It totally, and my friends are texting me, hey dude, where you at? And I'm just like, I can't get off the fucking couch, dude.
Yeah.
I am paralyzed in my home. I don't want to be around anyone. I don't want to go anywhere. I was having dreadful thoughts again of suicide, and it's just like, it was overwhelming.
Yes.
And I'm like, I went through this once.
Yes.
Why are we here again?
To use your metaphor, which I like a lot, the bucket got full.
Okay.
And you've had other things happen since then, some of which is resolved, some of which is not. There are patterns of behavior that are hard for you to endure and carry around. And that bucket of stuff that's tough, the stuff that is still lingering from all the things you can cite and the things you can't cite.
Right.
As you mentioned, flipping on the lights and the siren, it also had a gentleman who was a policeman who every time he put his belt on to go to work and his badge, he could feel it. He knew something is changing inside my body.
Right.
That when I And then I had another guy who had to move his gun belt and his badge to a different location out of his bedroom in order to sleep.
Oh, yeah, I can totally relate to that. Because when I was dressing at home, I had my shit in another room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I took my shit out of my bedroom because that was my place of comfort.
Yes.
And I didn't want the job. Just the symbolism
Yes.
of that belt and the uniforms there. And that's what, Susan's like, can I have a closet, please? Because all your fucking cop shit's over here now. But, and for the people that don't know, I'm sitting here, I've got tears in my eyes.
Yes.
I'm super fucking emotional right now. And I don't want to say I'm sorry for that, but that's the purpose of the show is to get here and get that raw. And thank God David's here. This is to let you know that EMDR does work.
Yes.
I'm just in that spot right now. But the other thing that occurred to me last week was that us as first responders are so willing to lay our life down for a total fucking stranger.
Yep.
But when we see our brother in blue, we won't even give him an eyebrow to say, hey, dude, you doing all right? And the point I'm trying to make right now is that you see that brother in blue or your fire brother or your EMT brother struggling, go have that talk.
Yes.
You're willing to sacrifice yourself for some total fucking stranger.
Yes.
But you got a brother that's hurting.
Yes.
All you do is jump on the bandwagon and help hurt them.
That's right.
Let's turn the dialogue around. Let's be a little more empathetic and let's start helping one another out more.
That's right.
Because I'm the same way. I have been that guy. We see a brother struggling, we're like, the pecking order with chickens, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the lowest chicken in the yard because everyone gets to peck you.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be that way. We want to be more empathetic and supportive of our brothers and sisters. And you see someone that's suddenly got a girlfriend or they're drinking a lot or they're calling off sick a bunch. Reach out to that guy and say, bro, man, let's go have lunch or what's going on, man? I'm here to help. And if you can't help,
right.
Here's a guy I know.
Yeah.
Check out this website, lessonslearnedcoaching.com. This guy, Dr. David, who's sitting across from me, this motherfucker's a miracle worker. And I have a lot of first responders. I refer to a dear friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd been through 3 sessions with you, and he called me up and he said, I just want to personally thank you for the referral. And I said, bro, I'm telling you, the guy's awesome. And that's the secondary purpose of this show is to provide resources.
Right.
And therapy can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Our therapy was fun.
Absolutely.
How many times did I come in and we just talked about fucking music?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. On the it list.
Yes.
We just recorded Monday night. What am I talking about? John Lee Hooker. Boom, 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 boom. Dun, 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 dun. To kind of turn around, make it a little lighter now. It's kind of bring us back up out of this darkness. But you bought me John Lee Hooker's double album set, and I've wore it out. I've had to put it away. But it's we spent our therapy time. And it was productive.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I'm paying David to talk to me about music, but you're 30 years older than I am, or 25 anyway. So you have more life experience,
right.
And going into therapy can just be that day.
Yeah, exactly.
Or then tomorrow but you and I built trust and rapport
tremendously.
And you've seen me at my most vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And, if anybody that knows me as a leader and has worked for me, they know I can be a big kick-ass hardcore fucking prick.
Mm-hmm.
But, you've seen me at my absolute most vulnerable. And to have that trust and that confidence in your therapist, you got to get there. Because if you don't get there, you can't get to the healing.
Right, right.
You can't get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. The connection between the two people involved is such a big deal.
Oh, yes.
And as we have our guests on, therapist and patient, that's a key thing I want to shine a light on is how you don't really have to maybe get along as well as we did.
Right.
but it's...
I got to be honest, David, I can't wait to have you and Jerry in the same room. I'm totally looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it.
I want to have you, and it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to be Prince for a day or Princess for a day, my absolute, I'm looking so forward to having you, Jerry and producer Donnie.
Yes, right.
Around this table.
Yeah.
In the MTC studios.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that time to come.
Yeah.
You know, kind of my vision is I want to have Jerry in first.
Yes.
And I think we're going to, I don't want to say hit our pinnacle, but the day we have Molly on is going to be an epic show.
Yeah.
You know, we have Molly Hall in here, and I love to have Kathy Platoni in here. But, yeah, I'm super, super excited about the people we got coming up.
And all of these things we've talked about all come together when we start to format it with the expanded, having guests and so forth. Everything that we've talked about, and we're not going to get to everything with every set of people, but I think there's a pretty good idea. We've got a pretty good idea what we want to hit on, what we want to emphasize, and we want to be plenty open to that patient telling his or her story, that therapist telling his or her story. There's no right way to do trauma. There's no standard way to be a trauma victim, a survivor, whatever. There's no book for that shit. You are your own person, and how you experience your trauma and how you experience your recovery is individual to you. And I think those stories are going to illustrate that very clearly.
I saw a meme today, and the meme said, I don't see how you do it. And the response was, I didn't have a choice.
That's right.
You know, and the people that have experienced trauma, you don't have that choice.
That's right.
You just have to take every day as it comes to you and try and be a better person tomorrow.
Right.
And find that strength. And you never know when you are the inspiration for someone else.
That's exactly right.
And in my life right now, I'm learning that I have been that inspiration for others, and I appreciate that out of the folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shall we?
We shall.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do, as you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.